Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to webinar 7 of the Australia-ASEAN Economics Forum, Online Education During COVID-19 and Beyond. Before we introduce our wonderful speaker today, I will do the acknowledgement of the country. The Australia-ASEAN Economics Forum, Online Education During COVID-19 and Beyond acknowledges the traditional owners of the land where this program was developed, the Palawa people of the Latuta nations. We pay respect to the traditional owners and to elders past, present, and emerging of the land on which all the University of Tasmania campuses stand. On behalf of the University of Tasmania, we acknowledge all countries participating in this forum and also acknowledge their elders and ancestors and their legacies to us. We acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands where our partners and participants live and work across Australia and Southeast Asia. So today it's our great pleasure to welcome Dr. Mala Raghavan to our webinar series. First of all, we would like to express our gratitude to Dr. Mala Raghavan for accepting our invitation to be one of the speakers in this very important series about online education. So, and thank you everyone for your active engagement as always and for joining us today. It's wonderful to see you as always. So Dr. Mala Raghavan is a senior lecturer in macroeconomics and head of discipline economics and finance at the College of Business and Economics at the University of Tasmania. Before joining the University of Tasmania in July 2011, she held academic positions at Monash University and AMIT University in Australia. She is a research associate with the Asia Institute of Tasmania and a visiting research fellow to Bank Network Malaysia and World Bank Group Malaysian Hub. She has more than 25 years of teaching experience at undergraduate and postgraduate levels at various universities across two continents, including Australia and Asia. And particularly in Asia, she worked in Malaysia, Singapore, and Hong Kong. Mala has demonstrated significant contribution to research and teaching in applied macroeconomics and international economics. By bringing her research experience into classroom, Mala built and designed curriculums that allow her students to understand how economic theory and data can be combined to explain the effects of real-world events. She has continuously received the Deputy Vice Chancellor's Outstanding Teaching Commendation Certificate, and in 2017, she was recognized as one of the College of Business and Economics best teachers and was invited to participate in Tasmanian Institute of Learning and Teaching's Master's Class Initiative. Well done, Mala. This is very impressive. By all of you, we are very lucky to have you in this forum, and thank you very much for your contribution in advance, and I believe we are all ready to listen to you now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vin, for that introduction, and thank you for inviting me to present in this forum. And I'm one person, I'm actually hail from Southeast Asia also. I'm from Malaysia, so I'm always passionate about the region. Even my studies and all the research that I'm doing on international trade is all related to ASEAN. So therefore, it's also for me, it's a good thing to meet many other ASEAN members here on attending this forum. And I would like to thank you, Vin, and your team, Victoria and the others, for putting up such a good discussion board like this to bring two different continents together, particularly for Tasmanian academics to have this opportunity to engage with our ASEAN counterparts. So today my topic, because I think the past few weeks I've been following, only yesterday I could not attend because I had another meeting, so I could not attend the talk yesterday, but I've been attending in the past few presentations. I think a lot of the issues that I'm going to talk about, they've already, the previous participants have already discussed or have already raised those issues. But what I'm going to do today, I'm going to talk more from an economics perspective, because I think one was on health, sociology, and many different aspects people have discussed. So I think it's also good to look at from an economic angle. How do we teach economics online? And so I would like this presentation today to be more of interactive. So in between, I have a lot of questions that I would like to throw to the audience, to the participants, also to contribute to that the discussion. So let me put it in a PowerPoint slide mode. Can you all see this? Right. Yep. So just to start off, okay, the topic or the title of my presentation is actually looking at the COVID-19, the catalyst for a paradigm shift in economics and learning. So why do I call this a paradigm shift in economics and learning? I'll explain why I call that. So this is just my background. I come from the discipline of economics and finance. I belong to the College of Business and Economics. Now, if you look at the picture in the background, now what do you think that picture is all about? What class do you think it is? Anyone would like to try? You see the background picture, you see the students standing there. Now, what class do you think it is?
Performing art.
Performing arts, okay, good guess. Anyone else?
I know you are in economics, but yeah. Yes.
She looks like they're on the field somewhere. It's like a field or forest or some kind, you know.
Exactly, like, yep, it looks like a forest. It's actually one of the Tasmanian forest, right?
Yes. So
So
right.
you're closer, but what class is this?
Okay, class. I think they're probably college. I think it looks like college students, possibly. Maybe college.
Okay, this is actually our students, our UTAS students. And will you believe if I say this is an economics class?
Yeah, I would. We would. I would.
Yep. So this is how our teaching was very student learner centered, and this is one of the ecological economics class. So when we put up, many people thought it was forestry and many other things, but actually it was an economics class. Conducted where they took the students, one of my colleagues, they took their students to the forest to study about the ecological system. So this is how sorry?
Experiential learning, isn't it?
Of course, yeah, experiential learning, yeah, exactly. So this is how economics was. We were very face-to-face, very student-centered kind of teaching in UTAS. So I'm just going to show you, so this is the pre-COVID era. If you look at it, this is my colleague, Paul, who we co-teach a unit. This is how our class was. It's a face-to-face, a very traditional face-to-face, and we like being in the classroom. We walk around, we talk to the students. That's how economics was taught by most of my colleagues in the discipline. So from this perspective, can you imagine we have to switch to something like this? So that is a very challenging, it's a mind setting. We have to change our mindset. But by the way, these are not my students. This is something I got from the website. I couldn't get a nice picture of ours on the Zoom. So I just picked one of the pictures of images from the website. So they are not my students, but we have to move from this. To me, it looks like the Brady Bunch, you know, all these little windows, and we are looking at one another. It's not like the traditional class. It's a very different feel, right? So how do we make the online blended classes to be good and effective substitutes? We can't make them as a perfect substitutes, but we have to make them as close as possible, as engaging as possible. So there are a lot of challenges along the way that we faced, because suddenly to move from what you see in the left-hand side to something on the right-hand side, it's not an easy move, right? So what I'm going to throw to you all at the moment, just like over a cup of coffee, let's talk about anyone in this audience teaching economics or statistics. I think just now someone I spoke to, Michael, is it? He said that he teaches economics. Anyone else teaching economics or statistics? Because I won't be able to see my screen because I've enlarged it. So I think I need Vin's help here too. Any of the audience teaching economics or statistics? So if anyone would like to share the experience, this challenging time, how did you all move, switch from a face-to-face environment to something more of an online teaching? Anyone would like to share the experience? No? okay, you're not being assessed. Just would like to share your experience. Is there anything on the chat, Win, or? Would you like
Nothing
to
from
share? Yeah,
Vietnam.
Swasti, yep. Do you teach economics?
Sorry, I'm teaching statistics.
Okay.
In
Hmm.
psychology, my department is psychology, but sometimes I have to teach statistics. The challenge in this pandemic is how to run the practicum, the practicing.
Yep.
Running, we use SPSS, statistical.
Okay. SPSS. Yep.
Yeah, SPSS. So I make a video for the tutorial, but yes, because it is my first year student, so yeah, I find it difficult to yeah exposure them to the statistic.
Statistics. Yep. Exactly. This is the same experience we had, especially for first year students. They're new to the university as it is, they're in a new environment. At the same time, you're putting them into, they come from a high school, suddenly transforming the university itself a new experience. On top of that, another layer is now they have to do everything online. So we have a similar experience like you. So we also, some of my colleagues who are teaching statistics at the same issue. So they're trying to use the Zoom or Blackboard collaborator to how to engage with the students. I can show you some of the examples that I use later. Probably we could share. Probably you did the same thing too. So so that's what I said. I'm not going to say anything new. Some of you would have already applied those things. It's just sharing our experience. I see more of this presentation as sharing our experience.
And I find one of my students like cheating when in assessment.
Yep.
The output of the SPSS.
We will talk about all those issues. I've got all that from assessments to engagements to lecture delivery. Yep.
Thank you.
So this is so when we look at the challenges from my perspective and also from my colleagues' perspective, the challenges to teaching strategies that we found, one is lecture delivery. Okay, this is something I'm going to discuss about. I'm going to show you some of the examples that we used, how we did it, particularly the examples that I used to transform the class from a face-to-face to an online platform. The second issue that we have, this is something I think even the past few weeks, all the presentations people talked about is class participation and engagements. How do we get your students to engage, right? So what can we do to attract the attention? Because now the other day, I think someone said you got to compete with other social medias, Facebook. And so how do we pull them from there and said, hey, look at our work, how do we do that? The third thing is the individual and group work activities. This is another challenge. Individual work is not so bad, but especially the group work. How do we bring these students together so that they can do their group work effectively? And the last one, like what you say, Swasti, is this invigilated assessment. This is a big challenge. So as I go through down that list, first, when I look at lecture delivery, I thought, oh, that's going to be difficult. But then when I look at class participation and engagement, that sounds even more difficult. As we go down the list, it's getting more and more, challenging. So lecture delivery seems the easiest thing that we can handle compared to invigilated assessment. So these are the issues that as I go, I will be talking about. So the next thing is, okay, now how do we ensure this learner-centered, as I showed you earlier, the picture, we are very learner-centered, face-to-face engagement. We always talk to our students. We don't just don't go and put our PowerPoint up and just teach. We walk around, we discuss, we bring up latest issues in economics. So how to ensure this learner-centered teaching philosophy is not jeopardized by the COVID-19 disruption? So this was a big challenge for us we had to think through. Number two, how to maintain this high quality, stimulative and interactive student learning environment on an online platform. So how to do that effectively? It may not be perfect, but how to do it as effectively as possible. We are still learning, we are still trying to perfect that model compared to last year when we immediately moved into online teaching. We did switch. We did reasonably well as a team. We all did reasonably well, but this year we are trying to polish it up. We are trying to improve ourselves. We also learn from the mistakes that we made last year. So as we are going, we are getting better at it. So I'm sure along down the line, we will be getting better and better. But initially last year, we had to do everything online, like from workshops to lecture delivery. But this year, we have moved. Our lecture is still conducted online. We not conducted online. We upload our videos, short videos. But our workshops are now, we are going back to the classroom. So it's more of a blended approach, which I'll talk about later. So these are the issues that we are facing. So you can see I'm already having a heavy head. So how do we transform, okay, and make these classes as interesting as possible and make sure that it's not just transforming, you also want the students to learn something, it must be effective. Otherwise, I don't see the point of simply transforming, but you need to give careful thought. How do we make this effective? It must be a learning process for the students as well. So this was our teaching style and approaches. So from a student-centered, I put the word low tech in a bracket because we were not really low tech even pre-COVID time. A lot of our materials are uploaded onto the online platform. We call it Milo, My Learning Outcome. And so a lot of this is a Blackboard platform, so where we upload all our materials. So students are already familiar with them, with downloading their materials from the online platform. The only thing is they used to print it out or they come to class and then we deliver it in the face-to-face class. But before that, we actually upload all these materials to them. So in terms of material uploading, it's not something new for the student, but it's more of the approach, the teaching aspects of it that suddenly from a face-to-face class, they are moving towards an online platform to listen to recorded videos and also participating in a class on an online or Zoom class. So the focus is we are using from a student-centered low sort of tech to a high tech, where now we need to think about two aspects. Okay, although before that we were student-centered, now we cannot just be student-centered. We also need to we also need to have some teacher-centered here. Because when we are transforming the lectures, like our video recording, so we looked at the flipped classroom. So we have to make sure that the way we deliver or record our lectures is effective. So that has to be very teacher-centered in that perspective. And then we take it to the classroom, or when we do the workshop, it's more of a blended approach. So with the expectation that the student has already watched the videos, they have done their homework, and then they come to the class for a discussion. So you can see at this time, I'm still trying to understand what is flipped classroom and what is blended learning. And, it's trying to get my head around, and I try to find a clear definition on this. And I think I understood, but I think it's sometimes I feel like I cannot see the difference between flipped classroom and blended learning. Okay, so this is the challenges that I myself had to ask from time to time, okay, when I'm preparing my materials. So I'm sure members of this audience here will have the same issues like what I had. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cover 3 areas today. Okay, in this presentation. One, I'm going to talk about the lecture delivery. What are the challenges? And also talk to you about your experiences about that. And then what did I do from my perspective? How did I deal with those issues? The second thing I'm going to cover is engagement, student engagement. This is very challenging. Now, what are the challenges and what can be done and what did I do and whether it was effective? And then the third thing is that I'm going to cover is assessment. Okay, the issues around assessments, what are the challenges, what are the changes that's required, and what did we do in our units? So let's look at lecture deliveries. Okay, teaching an economics unit. I mean, many of the audience, if they are teaching economics, they know what I'm talking about. The challenges are, one is to create hand-drawn graphs, right? Because although we give them beforehand our lecture notes, printed lecture notes, but in the class, normally I would like to draw and show it to them, right? The other thing is equations. I would like to write out the equations in the class, derive that equations for them so they know exactly how it's done, okay, the theory behind that. And also, we use this classroom, the face-to-face class, to communicate complex contents effectively, because we are able to walk around, throw questions at them, and it was so much easier to do it in the classroom. So I'm going to show you some examples of how my classes were before the pre-COVID period. So I'm going to stop sharing this, and I'll come back to that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you some of our examples that we had. Okay, I'll come back to you. I think so. Can you see this screen? Yeah, okay. So this is what I'm going to show you. This is how this classroom, where I take a printed of my lecture notes. Okay, I conduct, this was actually a recorded session from my face-to-face class. So I'm just going to click on this. I'm just going to show you what, so this is the one. So what I do is normally I'm just skipping so that I'm not going to bore you with my economics lessons. See, this is how we conduct. Okay, we show students, I draw, I talk to them, I walk around. So this is how the class was. It's very engaging, or asking them questions and they will respond, and that's how it's done. Yeah. So this is how it was done. And then to switch from this to create videos, it's not easy, because I'm actually talking to the students. I'm actually developing the lesson as I'm talking to them. So how do I do that now on a video, okay, without I'm not just like talking to a machine? How do I do that? So this was a big challenge for us, for many of us in the discipline, because for many of my colleagues. So this is the example. So this is something I need to do now in a video. Do short videos, engaging videos, which I'll show you later how we handle that problem. Okay, so I'll stop this. I'll go back to my lecture slides. Yeah. Share. Okay, can you see my screen again? Yep, the lecture screen. So this is where the challenge is, right? So you saw how the class was, how it's done, it's drawn, hand drawn, and showing equations step by step, developing that. So how do we handle these challenges? So moving from there, so the next part is, oops, it's not picking up. Yep. So you can see that I was already really freaking out, not only me, but many of my colleagues also freaked out at this stage. How do we transform these classes into something more engaging? So the changes that we had to see, okay, that we had to think through is, one, now when we are doing the videos, it has to be teacher-centered and high-tech learning. That means we need to focus on the flipped classroom approach, how to do the online instruction and lecture delivery. So this is something we need to think through. And how do we handle that? So we need to go back and look at what are the multimedia authoring softwares that are available for us, so that we can create short, engaging videos. I'm going to show you some boring ones, because the classes got to be engaging. Okay, when you go, if face-to-face is different, but when you're doing video, if I'm just going to talk to you like this, teacher-centered, high-tech learning, flipped classroom, online instruction, lecture delivery, you're going to lose your students. They're not going to listen to the videos that you're going to put up, okay? So it has to be engaging. It has to be short. You cannot have like 40 to 50 minutes video in one stretch. And we also got to understand from the students' perspective, right? It's not only our unit, they're also doing other units. So they are listening to 4 different lecture videos every week. So we got to empathize with them. So we have to make our videos short and engaging. So I'm just going to show you some interesting bad videos that we shouldn't do. Okay. Just give me a minute. just to show you, this is, they call it the boring economic lesson. Can you imagine having students like this? We cannot afford to bore them. Okay, so we need to make sure that the lessons that we do, okay, it has to be engaging. Otherwise, you'll have students like that looking at us, and we are not even having a face-to-face class. So we don't even know, they may not even switch on the video to listen to our videos. Okay, so this is one bad example that I wanted to show. Another one is when doing online. Let me show you another example. Okay, can you see that? So this lady is trying to do an online class like this. Can you imagine having a class like that and you're doing a video like this? We cannot afford to do that. So see, so these are the important things that we had to think through. Okay, when we created when we create a video. So some of my colleagues could be even doing a much better job. But later I will show you some of the videos that I did for my class. So just to give you an idea of, let me share the screen again. Okay, so some of these classes, so it's important that when we do these lessons, okay, we need to make sure that it is engaging, okay, and it's also interesting for the students. So it has to be short and sweet. Yeah. So now let's move on. So what I'm going to do next is breakout session. I want to ask you all how to create an engaging, interesting, and effective videos. It could be different lessons. It could be your own lesson, not necessarily economics. How do you think we can create an engaging, interesting, and effective videos? And what multimedia authoring software tools that you think are available that you could use? I'm going to open up to the audience now, to the participants. How do you think how to create an engaging, interesting, and effective videos? So what are the rules to do that? Anyone? Come on, I'm sure you all have something to share.
I think that Irish had a good point there with her comment about the bloggers.
Yep.
I think we should kind of follow what they are interested on, and that is this social media activity. So probably we should start using things like WhatsApp, Facebook videos, even TikTok for designing our lectures that way, right? So as long as we can, they're spanning still online, spanning the working memory online is very small. So they cannot really pay attention to too long, right?
Yes.
So 1-2 minutes would be enough. So if we can condense our lectures in 1-2 minute fragments, like TikTok style, then they are likely to remember more than we actually think.
Yep.
And that is our goal, right?
Yep.
That they remember.
That's right.
And they can apply it later. So we can use a longer synchronous lesson to reinforce that thing that they have memorized and make it applied in exercises or things like that, right?
Yep.
So we can moderate online.
That's right. So you need to look at your students, right? The capacity they have and also the bandwidth, like you said, the short videos. So how we need to understand our students, like you're right, Dean, we need to understand our students, what type of classes we are dealing, what type of subjects we are teaching. So all that matters how we create these short videos. Sorry, I couldn't read the chats because my screen, when I enlarge it, I can't see the chats, what's coming through. So I'm not able to respond to that. And of course, there are lots of multimedia authoring softwares out there. So do you all have used anything that you all would like to share? What sort of this kind of softwares that you've used?
Hi, Dr. Mala.
Yeah.
A while ago, I just posted on the group chat that now I know basically why there are a lot of viewers in these vlogs compared to our video recorded lectures. And then when you asked that question, I was kind of in denial. I know the answer, but I don't want to really blurt it out because I myself has really, reflected on what I did over the last semesters, and I just found out that I'm a boring teacher when it comes to having asynchronous sessions or asynchronous discussions, simply because probably I'm quite hesitant. At the same time, I know all these. I'm still young. I know all these multi platforms and all that, but then I couldn't manifest it in me to sound like these highly energetic vloggers, because I believe that if we are and we have the kind of energy, kind of vibe, then basically the students would also enjoy whatever we're doing on video. So that's a really tough challenge for us to to do that. But I hope I'm as energetic as these vloggers, so that
but
I'll
you
have
sound energetic to me. I'm sure you are in your class. Yeah. So it's a learning process for all of us. We are not trained actors, or like doing a video, you have to be, all these actors dancing around. We are not like that. We are typical boring academics. Like, we are trying to switch our mind, trying to pretend like we are trying to do things, but we have to learn along the way. I'm with you, Irish. I had the same issues. Like when we do videos, I said, oh, I shouldn't sound boring. I should sound a bit more lively. But believe me, when I first started making videos, I will delete and delete and delete. I'll redo again and redo again, and then come to a point where I thought, oh, in the class I make mistakes. They can accept me. So when I do videos, I sometimes I make a mistake. I said, oh, I just said that was wrong. I won't delete anymore. I'll continue with my video, and so I'm talking to them. So I've come to that stage at the moment. So I'm just like talking to them, rather than doing a very formal videos. That's how I'll show you some of the examples that I've done. Yep, that's a good point. And there are a lot of softwares out there. It need not be expensive. This is something when I first started, I thought, oh, they are going to be a very expensive to get these softwares. And I'm being an economist, I always like to find what are the cheapest way, what are the effective ways, my economics mind always sets in. So I was trying to find what are the other softwares that I could share with you all, some of these freewares that we have that are available that people could use for teaching purposes. So let's see what I have here. So what did I do in my class? Given this, of course, some of my colleagues might have done it even better, but I'm just going to share with you my own experience, what I did. So this is actually a first year unit. This is the foundation microeconomics, which I share with another colleague of mine. He teaches the micro component, and I'm, as a macroeconomist, I teach the macroeconomics component. And the things that I did, this is, as I said, is a compulsory unit for the entire faculty. So the student numbers are big, which is all the business students have to do this unit. So what I did was, first thing is I had to I created short videos every week. I did about 5 to 6 videos each week covering the topic. So I tried to keep my videos within a 15 to 20 minutes duration, so that it's not too long, and students can just choose if that they don't understand a particular concept, they just need to watch that particular videos instead of going through the whole process of 2 hours of video. That's asking too much for a young students. As I said, they've also got other units, and they're also listening to videos and recordings from the other lecturers as well. See, they're not just doing my unit, they're also doing other units. So I got to be mindful about that. And when we say multimedia authoring software, these are some of the things that I've used. PowerPoint, I find PowerPoint is useful. I turn that into slideshows, and then I convert it to videos, short videos. So this is one of the easiest, because we all use PowerPoint, so this was easier for me to convert. So if I'm just putting up facts, and I like to put a lot of pictures, as you can see in my slides, I like to use a lot of pictures and cartoons and all that. So that was easy for me when I was using the PowerPoint slide, which I'll show you in a short while, the examples for that. And then another software, of course, there are many other softwares, but one that I used was Doceri, because this is someone from our teaching technologists. They sort of recommended this. We call these the interactive whiteboard, because as I said, I use a lot of formulas when I teach. I like to write and explain. So I use this Doceri software to do that. And then, of course, document camera, where sometimes we could use document camera, but that can be expensive process. But because in the university I could use for some cases. But I'm going to show you the first two, the PowerPoint and Doceri, which is within the means of everyone. Most of us, Doceri is a freeware, and PowerPoint is we always use. So, and then, of course, Zoom and Blackboard, Collaborate. Those are the things I think you all are familiar with. So this is what I'm going to show shortly, the softwares that are used in my teaching. So I'm going to stop sharing this. Sorry to be going up and down, because I've got this little screen, so I'm trying to move around. So I'm just going to show you some of the examples that I used. And of course, you all feel free to share your experiences after this. I will talk to you about that. Okay, let me give you an example of my, yes. I think this is the one. Yeah. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to share with you this screen. So you're able to see the screen. Okay, so this is one of our Blackboard. Later, I'll show you the whole template, how I use. So I'm just going to enlarge this. So this is how I was teaching something on money. So I try to use a lot of pictures. Let me reduce the volume. I don't want you all to be listening to my boring lectures. Okay, let's reduce that a little bit. Okay, so just going back. So this is every week I try to keep it consistent. Like always when I start, I'll put up what I'm going to do for in that particular video and what is the reading. Like today, this particular video, I'm talking about what is money in its function, commodities, and so on. So then I try to bring in a little bit more, to attract the attention. So I like to use cartoons and pictures, and so some of the things that I use. So I also used Homer, some of this, like I like Homer Simpson. So I also used, I can't find that bit. Let me see. Always, the Homer Simpson, like when we talk about money. So I used all these platforms and I kind of teach, giving them examples so that they can relate to what's in. So this is just this was done using PowerPoint slides. So I convert that into videos, short videos, and they are usually, this one came up to about 25 minutes, but usually I like to keep it within 15 to 20 minutes. And then the other one that I wanted to show you all is this PowerPoint one. I think most of you know, it's pretty straightforward. We could use that. The other thing that I would like to show is the Doceri, which I used. Okay, so this is something I would like to share with you that we used in our lesson. Let me go again and share. So I'm not sure it's going to pick up, but let's see whether it comes up. Are you all able to see this screen that's a bit like a little window? Can you see? Yep. So the one with the writing on it, like I see. I'm trying to use so many in my tiny screen. So are you able to see this little window about? Okay. Yes. Yep. Can you see the screen? Yep. So this is what we call the Doceri software that I could use, and I could write something on it. Like it's like a whiteboard, and I write, right? Exactly like what I was doing in the class. So this was very good, and my students really liked that. I'll just reduce that volume. Yeah. So this is something they liked so much because they were able to follow as I'm doing. This is very similar like the Khan Academy, right? If you've seen the Khan Academy on the website where they also write and show. So this is very similar to that. And it's a freeware, Doceri. You can actually download, and you have a touch screen. You can actually write on it and show to the student, and you can create video straight away from there. So this is how that was done. So these are some of the softwares that you can use, especially like I know Swasti, you are saying that you're teaching statistics. This might be a useful platform that you could use, because you can actually write and show and demonstrate what is going on there. Yep. So I'll just stop that. Enough of me showing off. Okay. So let's see. Okay, let's go back to the PowerPoint slide. Okay. So these are some of the examples. So if you all want to know anything, I can give you the link like Doceri and all this. These are the easily, I say call it a low hanging fruit that you can actually tap on and use it. If you use it effectively, it will be useful for the students. And they like that because they feel like you're actually talking to them and showing them those examples. Now, okay. So that is in terms of teaching, lecture delivery, how I dealt with it. I'm still learning. I'm sure there's a lot more to improve, but at least for a start, we managed to switch from a face-to-face. I think to some extent, effectively, we managed to produce all these short, engaging videos for the students. So far, students were very appreciative. They liked what we were doing. So that is a good sign as a starting point. The next challenging issue was student engagement. And I know this was raised many times in the previous presentations, also student engagement. So what are the challenges? How to encourage students to participate, okay? Foster class discussions, sustain their interest on the online platform, okay? And as I think Irish or somebody did mention that there's a lot of distractions out there, how to get their attention from those distractions. So how do we make this the class student engagement, okay, to bring students to be engaged in this unit. So I like to show you, so we cannot afford to have this, that's not acceptable. So how do we make our classes or our sessions more interesting? So before I just share what I did, okay, how do you think we can make or create an interactive student learning environment on an online platform? How do you think we can do that? Sorry, I think if it's anything on the chat, it might be a problem for me to read. If someone would like to volunteer to say anything. So how do you think we can create an interactive student learning environment? How to keep, like I think someone just now suggested, I think Martin, is it someone who suggested that, we do this short on a TikTok or something, like I know people use different platforms. I know some people use WeChat, some use WhatsApp to get the students engaged in the discussions and so on. Yep.
I'll share one suggestion one thing that I've done, and that's using the Google Docs and Google Sheets and having students do one task at the same time, so they're contributing to a group work.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's like go on an information hunt because they have the internet with them, and then they come back and bring together, and then nobody has to talk, and then they are all happy.
Yep. And you found that effective?
Yeah, actually, some of my students really were grateful for it because they are shy and don't like talking.
That's right. Yeah.
So they felt like they were able to contribute and be proactive without having to.
Yep. So yeah, that's good, isn't it? Sometimes it works. That's why I say sometimes this online platform work in a different way, effectively in a different way, especially in a face-to-face class. Students are shy to talk, but on online, because when they're keying in things, they are much more engaging. So that's, yep. Anyone else?
What has worked for me is that I offer them something in return for doing a certain activity. For instance, we have a report that is the final assessment. And so I divide the tasks in class as something that will help them to do the report.
Yep.
So if they do the task in class, let's say I give them 15, 20 minutes to do the task, then I immediately provide them feedback to those who have finished, right? And throughout the class, I have like 3 or 4 activities. So almost everybody gets feedback, immediate feedback. And that seems to be a good encouragement for them.
Good encouragement. Very good. Because this is something I'm going to talk about later on assessment also. Because when you do all these little tasks, which actually contributes to the assessment, it seems to be working well, because they know that, okay, if I do this, it's going to contribute later, it's going to help me to in my assessment, because this is kind of connected to the assessments. It's right. So this is how we also try to do that, our student engagements. Now we have to think about, because end of the day, students always think about marks. Okay, as much as we say that marks is a listing they should worry about, there should be more learning process, but we got to face it. For them, marks, end of the day, they want to get good marks. So if anything that we can connect to the assessments and it's going to help in their performance, they are going to actually participate more. So what we need to do in our case was that, so some of it, so this is where the student centered and high-tech learning, because just now lecture delivery, we had to focus more on teacher-centered and high-tech learning. But now when we look at student engagements, we got to look at from that perspective, student-centered and high-tech learning. So what is one thing that is very important that I notice is effective and continuous communication. Now, Win is a very good example. She'll always update us. She will never keep us in dark, right? Every time after each session, you notice that she will always, inform us what's happening, what is coming next. See, that communication is important for students, effective and continuous. So students must feel that they are not left in the dark. Okay, someone is like continuously when we communicate with them, especially in this uncertain environment. That is something that I find is very important, continuously. And this is what they also, when they do it, student evaluation, when they evaluate their academics, they said they always like academics who continuously, okay, communicate with them. And then, like you said, Martin, like we have to give clear, measurable activities. So they must be clear what they're doing. When we say clear, measurable activities, each task, okay, what they're doing. Like if you're giving quiz, what is the purpose of that quiz? Student must understand from that perspective. And if it's a written piece, okay, how do we going to assess? So there must be a clear way, clear, measurable activities. And also we need to have interactive workshops and activities. Like this year, we were fortunate because we could go back to the face-to-face class at UTAS. But last year, when we were under the strict lockdown, we had to do our classes online, Zoom classes, obviously. And we need to keep that interactive, the class to be interactive and the workshops to be interactive. And of course, one of the ways for economics that I find that if I want to keep the class interactive is always connect to the current situation, what's happening in the current environment. So COVID-19 was in a way, was a blessing in disguise. I use a lot of COVID cases when we discuss about concepts in macroeconomics. So that was, so they feel they were engaging, and I'll talk about youth unemployment and so on, which is kind of, in a way, it also relates to them. So they like those kind of topics. So I tend to emphasize more on those areas. And also creating a lot of virtual group engagements. Like this is apart from the workshops. So sometimes if students have a common problems or some concepts, they are finding it hard. So what I do is I bring the students together. Now with Zoom, is so much easier to create this virtual group engagements. So in a way, they feel that actually, although they don't see me in person, but they are still like communicating with me through Zooms and so on. So these are some of the things that we could do. But I'm not saying it's going to be possible for everyone. I know someone, in one of the sessions, they said that sometimes people with, in some areas, especially in rural areas, the internet connectivity is not good. So how do we deal with that. So in that kind of circumstances, we need to look at different things. So what I'm suggesting here may not work for everyone, right? So it's more of people like have access to internet, and also because of this subject that I'm teaching, economics. So I'm going more from that perspective. How do I keep my students engaged in that platform? So this is what I did mainly. This is one of my Milo page. I just put it out there. So use teaching template with similar sequencing of material so that students find it easier. Otherwise, if it's going to be very messy, that kind of discourage them from actually going online, logging on, and going assessing these material. See? So I was using teaching template with similar sequencing of material. I'll show that spread. Every week I try to keep that consistent so that it's easier for them. So I will have one certain ways of presenting. For example, Win might have her style. So the student knows that if I'm going into Mala's class, this is how it's done. If I'm going into Win's class, it's going to be this is how it's done. So we can have different ways, but in the way that I do, it has to be consistent every week so that students know what to expect. Okay, as I said, uncertain times like this, we have to keep students, we don't, the least thing that we want them is to be worried and get stressed, and that's the least thing that could happen. So, and we keep things personable. So one thing that I did is every week, apart from uploading my videos, I'll do a 5 minutes video just to wrap up what is this week's content is all about, what they need to look at, what are the important dates that they need to focus for that week. So I'll just do a 5 minutes video every week so that they know, okay, to give them an overview of what to expect for that week and what they have to do and so on. So that's why I said the communication is very important. Third thing is the weekly workshop questions that cover current events. So this is when they come into whether they are doing online workshops or whether they're doing face-to-face workshops. So this is they should have listened to the videos, the weekly videos, and then attempt the weekly workshop questions that cover. So I tried to put in a lot of current events so that they realize that, okay, what I'm learning in this class is actually useful. It's not just theoretical. It's not just hypothetical example. It's actually a real current example. So I always bring in, I will talk about the Tasmanian unemployment rate. I'll talk about how is it this COVID is impacting the Tasmanian trade so that they're able to see, okay? And I also do a lot of online interactive activities. Apart from my videos, I also try to bring in some interesting videos, short 5 minutes videos so that they can listen to. As Martin said just now, I also give them activities, online short engaging activities that could be kind of connected to their assessment. So if they have done this work, that's going to help them in their assessment pieces. So because all those are connected. Okay, so these are the few things that I did, and I can show you just one example. So what I did with this, I can share one of the weeks, I think. Yeah, week 8, I can show you. So this is, let me share the screen. Okay. Nope, it's not coming up. Yeah, here. Okay. So when I said that weekly content, see, this is one of the weeks that I teach, like week 8. Okay, I talk about labor market and inflation. So first I give them what is the learning objectives, the areas that I'm covering. So this is the 5 minutes video that I do that I'll go through, run through what I'm doing in that step by step. So I'll tell them under each video what is being covered and why I'm looking at those videos or why am I using these examples. So these are the examples. Okay, this week I had about 6 videos. I give them my readings. So every week I try to keep that consistent. Okay, additional reading. So for additional reading, I try not to give them something long or 20 pages or 30 pages. I try to keep short articles that is relevant to the topic. At the same time, something that would interest them. Because if I'm going to give a 20-page additional reading, they don't have the time and they're not interested. So I'll give something on youth unemployment in Tasmania, Or I can say, ask them questions, can inflation be good for us? So this kind of short, kind of catchy kind of topics, articles that I give to them to read. And I said, okay, think about it in these articles, what, and sometimes I also contribute a lot to medias and all that. Sometimes I even pull out my own media, the news that I've contributed, so that they know Mala is not just talking about in the class, she's also actually what she's teaching us is the real issues, yeah, that's out there that they need to know. And then I'll give them some, all this these days online, you can find a lot of interesting things that's relevant. So I talk about joblessness in COVID-19 pandemic, for example. And then I also use a lot of our Reserve Bank of Australia, like in every country, you could use your Reserve Bank resources because there are a lot of current events. So I try to bring in some short videos, Reserve Bank videos. So this is like practical activities, like if they click on this, they can play a little game. How do they calculate inflation? How do they look at the basket of goods, and how do they calculate inflation? So these kind of activities will help them in their assessment. So I try to, these are not assessed, but something that is fun for them to do, so that when they do, they understand the concepts, and then later they can actually apply to their assignments or other assessments. And then, of course, I make it clear what they're supposed to do in their workshops and what are the assessment pieces that they need to do for that week. So I try to keep my communication clear. So every week it's consistent. So they know, okay, what is the checklist? What am I supposed to do this week? Okay, what is the deadline? When am I supposed to do submit this work, and so on? So no one can come back. And students, if they come back, I said, go back and look at that. Okay, I will never spend time writing a long email. I'll say, go back and look at all those informations are there on the website. So these are some of the things that I do, so that to keep it consistent, right? So that they know what to expect every week, so they don't feel lost suddenly, So the best thing is always to do the same, keep a similar pattern across the week. Okay? So let me go back to sharing the screen. So that's about the engagements that I've done. And sometimes I think one of the presenters earlier, last week, they did say that we have this, what we call Milo. I can actually follow. I know that whether students are doing their work, whether they're, whether they have actually download the materials and that they have done the work. So sometimes I can actually check who is doing what, whether they have actually, are the students engaging in those activities. So sometimes I do send them an email, hey, I said, I've been noticing you have not been participating. So that kind of jolt them a little bit. So I do from time to time, kind of those inactive students, I kind of inform them, it's time that you look at your work and, do something about it. So they know that I'm watching. Okay? So that impression that they get. So these are from the student engagement perspective. Now, the last one that I would like to, issues that I would like to talk about is the assessment. Another challenging area is the assessments. So this is something I found it very challenging because one, students are overwhelmed, okay, with online assessments, because as I said, I'm doing assessment, my colleague is doing assessment, and other colleagues, so they are actually overwhelmed. Okay, so we need to understand from their perspective also. So that's the first. Second thing is difficulties in conducting an invigilated exam. Okay, because some of this note, how do you maintain that, when we do an online exam, how do we make sure that, students are not copying and pasting and things. So this is one area, is a very challenging area where I had to think differently how I design the questions, the exam questions. I cannot use the traditional way, I cannot ask define inflation or define unemployment. That's ridiculous because they can always copy and paste the answers. So it's not really doing, the job, like you're not really assessing them. So these are the issues that we had, issues with academic integrity. I think Swasti, you did mention about this room for, heaps of opportunity for contract cheating, okay, room for plagiarism and all this, academic integrity. Now, how do we handle this? So now throwing the question back to you all, how do you think we can design take-home exams and assessments, and how to minimize this contract cheating and plagiarism? I need ideas from others as well. How do you all deal with this? Yep. Oops, sorry. Yep.
Hi, Mala.
Yep.
Can I share?
Sure, Michael.
So based on my experience, what I did is I tried to give them a unique form of assessment in such a way that it will minimize the tendencies of them asking for answers from their classmates. So what I do is I ask them their personal experiences. I ask them how are they going to relate this concept to what they're experiencing right now. So in that way, they can also put some personal touch on it. And I can say that this answer of my student is really unique from others. So that's it.
That's right. That's a good way to do. You know, you have to think differently. That's great. Yeah, Michael, because we cannot do it the traditional way of asking. You know, I even sent back some of the example questions. I said, no, we are not asking any more definition questions. We are not asking any simple questions. It has to be very critical thinking kind of questions. Otherwise, you're just giving them the opportunity to go online and just key in the word, what is the definition of inflation? They're just going to take that and copy and paste, and you cannot blame them. It's there out there, right? So this is something we need to do more of. The way we assess students has to change. Any other ideas? Irish, is that something you wanted to say something?
Hi, Doc Mala. I was thinking, I don't know if this also works with an economics class. In my case, what I usually do is I don't focus really on item equivalents or basically putting marks or scores in each of the items, but I'm more focused on whether or not they exactly got the skill or the competency for each of the tasks.
Yeah.
So this time around, I focused more on that. I didn't, if I could really just count, probably I just gave them quizzes that are very objective with one-to-one point equivalent, probably twice. But then the rest of the tasks, there are a lot of tasks, and these tasks are more focused really on the skills and the competencies.
Yep, that's good. In economics, we have two parts. One is going to be very objective. Like I think is like even like Swasti, like that. It's a statistics, right? That one is very objective. So it's difficult to have a critical thinking kind of activities. But like Irish, like you said, even from macro, I have some topics that is very controversial. There's no right or wrong answers. So I can throw that kind of questions, and students always, you know, because their mindset is so objective, they want the right answer. I said, no, we don't have a right or wrong answer. Is how rationally you're discussing that topic. So this is how I try to mix it up with my assessments. There are some aspects that we need to assess, like a calculation and all that. It's a bit more objective, but there are also the other parts that I could still, you know, that's why I said my style of questioning has to change. I cannot, so I ask more of like open-ended kind of questions. There's no exact specific answers to that. So that is one way how but overcome this problem, but we're still learning, as I said, and students are learning. We are also learning in the process. So trying to find that, you know, the middle point where it works for everybody. So
True. Thank you for that, Doc Mala.
Yep, thank you. Yep. Thank you for all the suggestions. I'm also learning from this group, you know, from what y'all are doing. It's kind of nice people from different areas, you know, economics. There could be some similarities across different, you know, subjects and so on. So then this is one of our students, he presented. So we said that changes, we got to redesign the internal and external assessment. I think that's important. Not only internal is more of take-home assignments and things like that, but even external, the final exams has to change, right? And the measurable activities, like I think what you have highlighted, Irish, it says there's a formative aspects of it and a summative assessment. Okay, formative is more formal, more objective. You can give them quizzes. And then you also need more of kind of discussion type of topic, because this is where the actual critical thinking is coming in. Because the formative assessment is more to see whether they understand the concepts, they understand what it's all about, but the actual thing that the learning process is taking place through the critical thinking. And in economics, that's very important. The critical thinking is very important. And also we need to ensure clear connectivity between the assessments and the real world, because students always want to feel that what they're doing is there's a value to it. You must attach that to the assessment. So in economics, I probably in macro, maybe it's easier for me. I can always connect to what's happening in the environment. You know, when COVID hit, I show them the business cycle and I said, why do you think it's happening here? What are the indicators affected by this crisis? And I also show all the current, what the governor of Reserve Bank of Australia is talking about, what the treasurer is talking about. So they're able to sort of, okay, what I'm learning in the class is actually useful. And I said, you can go home and explain to your grandparents and your parents, you know, when they listen to the news, if they don't understand, you see, you are better off now. You have more understanding to explain to them, and they love that. You know, they think that they are able to explain to their family members. And some of them do come back and tell me, you know, I told them, you know, this interest rate is moving, exchange rate is going to change, and you know, so it happens. So try to create that, you know, what they're doing is useful. I think that's important. And so what did I do? Like you, Irish, I did a weekly quiz submission. Every week they have to submit quizzes. So usually we give them about 20 questions, and they only have 20. So very short period window. They have to finish within that window of time. So that it, and like each week's quiz only might contribute 1% of their final assessment, but at least it's like keep going. They consistently got to submit that. And then the second thing is the assignments. So when I created, like I said, the questions that have come up, I look at the current event and I try to connect the theory that they did in the class, and I give them the real data. And also to create a short video clearly outlining. I think this is something Swati also says, that I show them in the Zoom, okay, how do you do this? I show them the Excel sheet that they have to look at. So I've created this short video clearly outlining what is expected out of this. Instead of just putting it everything in the writing, I created like a video so that they know that if it's in the classroom face-to-face, I would have talked to them. So now I created this video to show them exactly what is expected out of that. So what is the purpose of that assessment? What is the learning objective we are trying to achieve through that assessment? And also our expectations. So, and then the interactive activities, like I said, every week, I think Martin was saying that, I try to create these interactive activities every week, which is kind of towards the end, it's going to help them in their final assessment. So they have, if they have not done the work, they have to go back and do those activities so that they have an understanding of what this assignment is all about. So that is something I had to think. As I said, I'm still learning. So are my colleagues. We are still learning. We're trying to improve. So, and then redesign the take-home exams. Like I can't give any more, you know, defining things, kind of a very formative type of questions, but it has to be more of a critical thinking pieces that they have to do as a take-home exams. So these are the things that I have done so far. So the 3 areas that I have covered. So things that I'm trying to do, and I'm still learning, I'm trying to incorporate that. And when I see something works, I hold on to that. If something is not working, then I start thinking, putting my thinking head again and try to see how to overcome those issues. So the final point, as I said, the key points that for me, what I find important is communication. That's important. Always keep communicating with your students, whether they respond or not, keep that communication going. Consistency is important. Every week you make sure that you have a consistent approach. Don't try it and not change this week, you do this way, and next week, and the students get confused and they're going to stop, you know, they're looking at their websites or stop doing things. Continuity, make sure there's a connection between all the assessment pieces. There's some continuity. So what they're doing in one assessment pieces is kind of going to help them in the other assessments and so on. So there's a continuity. And also connectivity with the external, like give them the real life examples, connect that back to what they're studying in the class so that they feel what they're doing is relevant. Okay, so that's the key point from my experience. I'm sure you all are experienced teachers, I'm sure lecturers, and you have far more things that to help. So just to say that I expect you all to be independent, innovative, critical thinkers who will do exactly as I said. I said that is not acceptable. Yep. So this is the beautiful Tasmania, Hobart. You can see the Derwent River. Can you see the building in the corner? That's where my office is. So just to show you, this is our business school. So that's the building that you're seeing, which is facing that river that you see. And that's it from me. Yep. So I'm hoping to hear more from you all now. Yep.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Mala Raghavan, for your fascinating presentation with a lot of concrete examples from your online teaching. I'm sure we or learn a lot from you. Myself, I have learned a lot from you. Your presentation covers almost all aspects of our online teaching, including lecture preparations, student engagement, student activity, group work, small group work, etc., and then assessment, almost everything. And yeah, I have learned a lot. Those examples are really helpful. Thank you very much. And it's now time for questions and comments, everyone. Now I will invite you to interact with the speaker by asking questions or offering your comments.
And
Okay, so
Vin, I'm also learning, a lot of them shared the example, which is also good for me. Yeah.
Yeah, and I will share the charts, the script of the charts for today. A number of participants share lots of information about educational technologies, access social. I will send you this the information to all of you after this session. So let me have a look.
I'm not a multitasker. I can only do one thing at one time. So if I'm focusing on presentation, I can't read the chat. I cannot multitask.
Yes, I will invite so Martin first. Now let me go through the questions.
Yeah.
And James, can I invite you to ask questions first? James, please.
You mean James, me?
Yeah, James. Hey, James from Brunei, right?
Yeah, all right. Since you so kindly invite me, Dr. Vinto, and yeah, thank you, Dr. Mala Raghavan, for this another engaging presentation. Links very well to what we discussed, especially in those breakout groups last week. The question that I put up on chat, to get to the point, is that maybe to some extent we are all prisoners of whatever learning management system our university or institution operates in. Now, okay, those have all sorts of affordances and facilities. For us here in Brunei at UBD, it is Canvas. We gather that for you in Tasmania, it's Blackboard, right?
Yep.
Yeah, those all have lots of potential, but to some extent, like Canvas with Canvas conferences, which is one option for the things that you've been discussing.
Yep.
But what we can't do is move outside it. What we can do maybe is make YouTube videos and embed those or link to them. But I was just wondering, to throw the discussion open, any other suggestions? I'm happy to see that other people on the chat have been giving lots of other very insightful and original suggestions.
Yep.
Okay.
So what are you saying that are you having difficulties uploading, or what was the question, James? Sorry.
No, just you know, the point that we are kind of stuck because we can't jump from one learning management system to another.
That's right. Yeah.
You know, we have to live with whatever system the university has supplied us with.
So we got to work around it. Yep.
Yeah, so that's a little bit of a constraint, but of course other people would turn it into an opportunity and make the best of it, I guess.
Best of it. And I think somebody also raised that they could use WhatsApps and all the other some things outside. Yeah, although the universities discourage that. I know Utah's, they discourage us from, try to use it at the platform so that we have control or we know what's happening, right? Yep.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, James, and thank you, Malas. Can I invite Hasto Wahadi? It looked like you had two questions.
Yes, I had a question for Mala. Thank you for giving me the time. So the question is, do you also incorporate dynamic assessment in your class? Because actually dynamic assessments focusing on the educationally diverse settings. As you know, we have different background settings that is very important to dig out the potential, the capacity of students with their diverse environment. So what do you think about it? Thank you.
So when you say diverse environment, are you you're talking about their capacity, that some are good students, some are weaker students, or are you talking from that? Yep, that's a challenge. Like when we do a lot of these activities, okay, we do a lot of trying to engage. Usually the good students, whatever you put in, they're going to be engaged, right? There are a group of weak students, no matter what you do, no matter how many times you nudge and you do that, they are not going to engage. There will be, so it's always our target is this middle group. So we don't want to lose this big middle group, because this is where that once we get at least we can hold of this middle group, then this tail end is after that, we need to focus on that, because it's when I have about like close to 500 students, it's hard to get everybody, but
Yeah.
the good ones, I let them, they are very independent. They will not bother you. They will do everything that yes, they're supposed to do. They will do it.
Yeah.
But then you have this weaker lot, no matter how many times I send them emails, they don't even respond to that. So there's one group that I can't, you just cannot do anything with them. And then this middle group, my target is always this middle big chunk of them. So my focus is how do I engage if I see that, there'll be, when I see some students one or, what, they are not regulars, but sometimes they come in, sometimes they do. This is where when I kind of send them an email, or I said, is there something going wrong? I don't ask them, why didn't you do it? Instead, I go more of a very, in a very friendly way. Is there something, are you having issues? I notice that you're not participating. So that's sort of kind of, once I do that, after that, they start participating, and they said, oh, okay, so the lecturer is actually watching them, so they tend to participate. And then when we talk about their ability to capture, like you said, yeah, the face-to-face class, you can actually see from their facial expression how many of them are getting it, how many. Now in an online platform, that is very difficult. So again, when I look at the assessment, sometimes I said, okay, do you want to have, I have like a consultation, now with Zoom is so much easier. Sometimes I call out and I said, do you have any issues, or do you want to, I look at your performance, it looks like you're struggling. And so some of them will take it up, but it is a challenge. Yep. It's not, some of them kind of, being watched, and they are more nervous about it. So there is still, as I said, as we're still trying to grapple with this environment, trying to bring these students as much as possible. Yep. I don't know whether I've answered your question. Yep.
Thank you, Dr. Mala. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much for the question and for insightful answer, Malas. Another question comes from Yani from Indonesia. Yani, would you like to ask our speaker directly? Andre, Yani. Okay, where are you? Or would you like me to ask on your behalf? Okay, I can read it aloud. Yep. So, Andrea, Yani, thanks for the engaging presentation, Dr. Raghavan. I'd like to ask how to assess students' papers in a large class, from 7 to 100 students efficiently. Is it work a good and objective way for each student to assess, or are there any other strategy that we can use? Thank you.
Yeah. So we have a big numbers, and we have tutors. In my case, I mean, I was fortunate. I'm having tutors to help me assess. So one of the things, sometimes having tutors is good, but it can also be challenging, because when we mark, we sort of, we use our discretion, right? But when we are giving it to tutors, they mark in a very objective way. Sometimes it can be very challenging. So we have to give a very clear instructions how they mark. And a lot of our assessments now, because it's being submitted online, is being assessed online. So we have like a rubric. We kind of create a rubric. So we tell our tutors, okay, they have to meet these rubrics. So, and then I have got comments, so that they can put up the comments for the students to, so sort of copy and paste it where there's relevant. And in some cases, they can use their own, the tutors who are marking, they can use their own words to rephrase it to suit that student, and so on. So mainly that's how. And then what we do is, because the tutors are marking, in the end, when the marks come in, then I just have to pick up randomly about 30% of that pieces and just quickly run through and see how they have assessed. See, and one thing what I did, I don't give every tutor to mark one whole entire pieces, because our assessments normally, that let's say there are three separate questions in the assessment, and I have three tutors to mark. Each tutor will mark one question only, so that to keep that consistency across. Otherwise, if I give one tutor to mark the entire thing, one could be very lenient, another could be very strict in their marking, so it may not be fair. So what we do is, each tutor is given one question. So throughout, at least they maintain the consistencies across the marking. And that's how we do. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Raghavan.
Yeah, what is your experience, Adriani? I mean, what have you done? How do you deal with that?
Sorry, but before, sorry for the unstable connection. I was sort of out at abruptly, and then came back again.
Yep.
Yeah, that this is actually the problem in most of the classes in our university in the eastern part of Indonesia. So we have large classes, usually 70, even more than 100, students in a class. And then the problem is that unlike your situation, we don't have any tutors.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
that's right.
one lecturer needs to handle one large class.
That's
And then
right.
when it comes to giving assessment, like giving papers, I tend to put them into groups in this case. But I feel that probably it's not that objective for each student in that particular group, because maybe there are some weak students and then there are
Yeah.
some excellent students. So that's why I'm asking these questions to you. And then thank you very much for
Yeah.
your answer to
I understand your case, Jenny. Some students just hate group work because of the problem that you've just mentioned. Because one, they do work hard, and there are free riders in the group who doesn't do much. So
yeah.
my students, when the moment I said this is a group work, they go, group work, like they hate it, because they always had a bad experience or something. But I said, look, when you go out and work in the office, you have to be work in a team. So how do you deal? This is also a learning process. You got to learn how to deal with this kind of characters. So I throw it to them back. I said, you have to get your mates to contribute to this. So how do you do if you're in an office? Are you just going to walk away? You have to deal with it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I know it's easier said than done, but it's a lot more challenging. Yeah.
Yeah, many times I ask my master students to help out, but sometimes there are objections from the department because they're not really actually, real tutors in this case.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah,
That's
I understand that, because when we rely on tutors, there are a lot of students will come back, they're not happy with the marking. Then it was a lot more work for us also to go through that assessment, to review it. Yeah, I understand that. Yeah.
Thank you for the
Yeah.
insight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much to you both. And you have received lots of nice comments from the participant for your presentation.
And will I be able to see it later? Yeah.
Okay,
Tonight over a cup of
let us
coffee?
go one last question from Nicole. Nicole, from Philippines, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Mala, I have a question. I don't know if this was already discussed because I was disconnected from the call due to a power interruption. So, my experience in teaching in the university is that when students heard that the subjects will require them to do computation, like simple math or even higher levels of math, they are hesitant. They're afraid. So, what other tips that you can give to me or to the rest of the participants for us to give reassurance to the students that they will get through the course, they will be able to learn these higher concepts that we're trying to teach, especially if it is related to computation?
Yep.
Thank you.
So this is something I've experienced, I constantly experience, because I used to teach statistics as well. The moment statistics, because it's a compulsory unit, they come into the class, they said, I'm here because it's compulsory, not because I want to be here. So they already, when they walk into the class, they're already coming with that mindset, I'm not going to do well in this unit. So what I did this with before, is that I break it up into smaller tasks. So because initially when I first started, I didn't get it. I did in a very traditional way, going through all this. Then I realized the students were not engaged. What I did was I break those tasks into smaller components. I said, okay, let's do this easy bit, right? Just look at these easy examples and work through this. And then slowly I kind of embed something. So this is where, that like Docere, just now I show you that whiteboard that I write this, because in a face-to-face class, I used to do that. I used to do step by step with them, and they liked that. And suddenly online, I can't just put up the formula and just talk about it. I cannot teach like that. I found it hard. So that's when I got this Blackboard Docere. And I used to write and talk, and I said, think about this. Sometimes students are really weak, even from when you move from the left-hand side to the right-hand side, when you put negative or positive, they get confused, so they're very basics and level. So I had to do all this step by step to these students. And of course, some of them is hard for them, but for many, once they know what's going on, the simple examples, once we go through with them, the simple examples, after that, they kind of a bit more confident to look at something better. I had some good outcomes, positive outcomes, where students, when they first started, they were so nervous about it, but towards the end, they at least got credit or, distinctions and something which they thought they're not going to get through for this unit. Swasti, probably you could say something. You are teaching statistics.
I'm sorry, I just interrupt by phone call.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, sorry to put you on the spot.
I'm sorry, but maybe not in statistic, because my not always in statistic, because sometimes I teach psychology. I agree with Martin. Yeah, Martin, that it's easy for me to make them in a small group.
Yeah.
So maybe if Andriani have 70 to 100 students, I will make it a parallel class. And then in one class, I made a small group discussion.
Yep.
And to interactive process, sometimes I use a polling, something like that. And about the project, because I'm not good in making a video, I asked them to make a video. And it's related to the theory that I give. For example, if I teach about memory, I will ask them to make a video. It consists maybe like a song. They make a song. It consists theory about memory, or maybe poem or drama. Yes,
that's wonderful. Yeah,
they want. So it's maybe it's not very objective, but they fun with it.
Yeah.
If I give them assignment like that, so I have many songs from them about memory, about inhibition in memory.
That's good. Yeah.
About psychological topics.
You see, that's what it's because you have to look at your own students. You have a better understanding of what their expectations are and what their capacity. So end of the day is, like I said, it's you have to you have to tune to your students. And to me, the communication doesn't matter whether it's objective or not. The communication is very important. That they always must feel that their lecturer is actually helping them, is with them, trying to also overcome this environment, current, uncertain environment. So like what you're doing, creating poems, so they feel that that's a way of dealing with this, Yep.
Thank you very much. And we have 1 minute for one final question. So Nico, please go ahead. Your chance.
Lynn is going full swing, isn't she?
Nico, are you still there?
Yeah. Sorry.
Ask your questions.
Yeah, hello. Okay.
Nico, yes.
My question, if there's one thing COVID-19 is very successful at, that is that it's separated us physically, right? That all interaction has been limited, if not stopped. I love collaborative tasks when it was still in physical face-to-face class. So my question is, how do you integrate collaboration and how do you assess collaborative tasks of your students?
Like the teamwork, what you meant is that the group work.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Like the unit that I teach in first year is mainly they're still doing the individual work, but I can share like some of my colleagues. I know they were doing like a group sort of work, and so what they do is one of the way I know that they have been trying to do is like presentations. So when they, the students got to present their work. So that's the time, like, that they're forced to work together, because when they present, every member, that the lecturer will know whether you've contributed or not contributed. So that's one thing. Presentation now with the online is so much easier for them to do presentations. So we could capture. I know some of my colleagues were doing that. The other thing is, I don't know whether you all do, but in UTAS, probably Vin can share with me if it's different, but we also have a form where we said, okay, like each member, how much contribution they did to that assignments, like each of them will assess one another, right? So there'll be a team leader, and then each will have to assess how much the other team members contributed. Of course, it can be a lot of controversial things because some teams really work well, and from the way they respond to that, you know whether the team is having a problem or not. So I remember many years ago when I was doing this group work, oh, there'll be fights, and sometimes you are in the middle of the arguments. So this is when I thought, okay, first years are not really ready for group work. Let's keep it a simple, say a single work, individual work. When they go to second year, third year, we emphasize the group work. At least they're more mature at that stage. So as they go higher, I find the group work presentations. A lot of the presentation, when I just give them group work, it doesn't work. But when I attach it with presentations, then I think it becomes more serious. They take it more seriously because they know that when they're presenting, it's going to show up whether you contributed to that work or not. That's just my experience. I don't know. Maybe some other people could say could contribute in this space. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone, for your question, and Mala for all the insightful answer. It's such an interesting discussion on the topic, and I believe we have all learned a lot from each other and from Mala's presentation today. I really love all of your concrete examples of your online teaching. They have a lot. So thank you very much, everyone. You have been engaging in this conversation so well, and thank you very much for your time. And please remember, we will have final webinar tomorrow for ICT at Nanda. So you can, I believe in ICT they use lots of group work, and you say that's question for Nanda tomorrow and ask him more about group work. I know in ICT they do lots of group work. Okay, thank you so much again, Mala, Dr. Mala Raghavan. It's such an honor to have you in the forum, and you have shared lots of examples about your teaching, and I'm sure we are all appreciative of your expertise, knowledge, and experience. And we so look forward to seeing everyone again tomorrow. Thank you so much, everyone.
I would also like to thank everyone for their contribution and for your son. Yes, Radhika.
Okay, thanks so much, everyone. Thanks so much, and see you again tomorrow at the final.
Thank you. See you.
Yeah, see you. Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Mala.
Thank you, Dr.
Yeah, thank you.
Mala.
Yes. Bye. Yeah.